Hello everyone, this is another episode. Hello everyone, this is another episode. Listen to another episode of Let's Talk Sports with Tim McKain. And I have the special pleasure of interviewing very special guests. So this is Let's Talk Sports with Tim McKain. And I'm here with Pierre. This is Tim McKain, and I'm here with Seldon Wright. How you doing today? When did your passion for the game begin? Good evening. You're listening to the Sports Cycle on 105.1 Live with Tim McKain. I am your host. Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Sports Trap. I'm Timothy McKain. This is Derek Hall. You're listening to Believe in HBCUs.
I believe.
With Tim McKain and Derek Hall. Today, we have a very, very special guest. This is our first guest on the Believe in HBCU podcast. You're listening to the Sports Cycle with Tim McKain, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing David Grace, who has been a part of the coaching space since 1997, 24 years, AAU, high school, collegiate. He's coached at schools from Vanderbilt, UCLA, California, and a host of other schools. At one point, ESPN ranked him the top 50 most influential coaches in the nation. David Grace has recruited the Ball brothers, I believe Kenyon Martin Jr., and several other NBA players who are killing it in the league today. Thank you, Coach Grace, for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So your previous, you've been assistant coach for collegiate for a while now, but I see you transitioning back to the AAU circuit. What are your thoughts on the AAU circuit in particular? The reason why I'm asking this question is because the AAU circuit, there's pros and there's cons to it. There's a lot of controversy when it comes to AAU in terms of players playing too many games or people not necessarily teaching the fundamentals. You've seen former NBA players or coaches who've spoken out against, AAU organizations and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on, if you had to convince a player or a parent about AAU, what are some of the pros? Because there's a lot of pros to the AAU circuit. What are some of the pros to AAU?
Well, I think there's pros and cons to AAU as well, and as well as high school. I think development is very important. So I think, at times they probably do play too many games, but throughout the years when I was growing up, we didn't have AAU. We played every day on the playground, or a gym that we could find. So they do play a lot of games, but I don't think it's too much. It's okay, but you do need to learn skill work. You do need to understand basketball IQ. You just can't roll the ball out and say go play. So I would get with AAU programs that's been successful and not only developing kids, but also helping with their recruitment, and get with those programs, and make sure you get with a good fit where your son or daughter is going to enjoy playing for the coach, enjoy playing with the players that are on the team. So that's important as well. So, but I love the AAU. I love the AAU as a coach. There's a lot of great things that go with AAU. I love being a high school coach. So, in today's world, these kids are moving from team to team to team. And, I'm starting to, understand that culture. It wasn't a culture from when we grew up, but, people are moving, just like the transfer portal is nothing, this generation will go to 3 different colleges before they get a degree, whether they play sports or not. It's just the way it is. They might try one school one year, I'll try another school another year, I'll try another school another year. You know what I mean? And before you know it, they've been to 3 different schools, and their generation thinks it's okay. So, and who am I to say it's not? So,
Right.
There's a lot of great things about AAU though.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we were talking before the interview started, and one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was teachability, accountability in and young athletes? Is there a difference in the mentality of an AAU person just starting out compared to a collegiate athlete in terms of teachability? Talk about what is it like as a coach trying to teach these young kids, and obviously the best players in the world in the AAU circuit or high school, college, they might not listen to coaches. So talk about the teachability of some of these young players who are, in your field.
Well, I just think when you go to work a young man out, whether he's 10 years old, 15 years old, or 20 years old, or playing in the NBA, you have to have their respect, and you have to be able to, teach them things that's going to help them down the road. There's a lot of guys out there, especially at the lower level, that are skill guys, skill development guys, but never really coached. So when it comes to basketball IQ or how to handle a different situation within a game setting, and that's where they probably come up short a little bit, because they've not honed their skills as far as being a coach. They're just a skills trainer. And I'm seeing, when the skill development trainers first hit the scene, there's been explosion in that, and it's needed. But there's also, they need to be around coaches that understand, different concepts of coaching, as far as, strategizing, how to go play against a zone, or how to break a press, or how to get open in this situation for your shot, or having open, getting your teammate open. I don't see too many skill development drill workout guys talking about cutting without the basketball. I don't see too many skilled coaches working on defense, and being in the right position with the ball rotation and closeouts and stuff like that. We're seeing the fancy dribbling. We're seeing the different side step threes, and shooting 40-foot threes, or off balance layups, and finishing with the wrong foot. Now that's the thing to do. Left hand on the left hand side of the court, finishing with your right hand instead of using your body in the game to get get your body where you can create the foul and one. But skill development is needed. I'm not saying that, but these kids also need to learn how to have basketball IQ, and maybe have film sessions with those guys, and then understand team concepts as well, and then play in the summer, play pickup games. The greatest tool that when I was growing up, and I know things are changing, is going to the outside court, and if you lost, you had to sit 3 games. That taught me how to get real good in the concept, because I didn't want to sit those 3 games. So it's a difference. And one thing, and they have that across the country. The most famous one is at UCLA with the men's gym, where there's pickup game with the NBA pros. They're doing skill development, but they're also playing pickup games in the men's gym at UCLA, and it's world famous. Rico Hines and all those guys are running it. Now, I've been very fortunate to go there a lot of times to watch them play, but you need to have both, and you need to have, not just work skill development, you need to have workout. And then the answer to your question is, you got to have the respect of the player that you're working out and developing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in terms of getting the respect of the athlete, um, in the AAU circuits particularly, you have a lot of young guys who are trying to make it to the next level. And so sometimes they have many different people trying to pull them in different directions. If you had to tell a young man, whether in AAU or whether in high school, whether in college, who to listen to, if you had to advise a young man who to listen to in terms of the style of his game, because you don't want to have too many ears, or not too many ears, too many mouths talking in to this athlete. What would your advice be to kind of block out the noise?
For the student athlete and his parents, do your homework on who you're going to have around your kids, and get some, some advice from people that's done it before at different levels. You know, I would seek out a high school coach that's had great success over the years, AAU coach who has great success over the years, and get with those people, and you know, obviously college coaches that's had great success over the years, and call them and pick their brain. You know, you can call me. You know, I'm more than willing to help. If my phone rings, I pick up. So if there's anyone out there that needs advice, and I've been all over the country, so I pretty much know everybody and at least one or two people in each state. So, but those are the things I would do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In terms of the collegiate space, when it comes to pick and roll offense or different sets and stuff like that, how long does it take usually for an athlete to learn these plays, and what is the process like for some of these athletes? Because it can be a complicated thing. You know, when people talk about basketball, you know, it's not just shoot putting the ball through the hoop. It's the X's and O's of the game. So talk about the development of the X's and O's and the process of players picking up on these things.
Well, you know, that's an individual thing because there's some guys pick it up quickly, other guys struggle with it. You know, I've seen guys not get recruited to certain schools because they knew they couldn't pick up the offense. So
Mm,
that's another thing. Like I was saying earlier about early development is having your child learn what a you know, a horn set is, a floppy set, you know, learn the terminology, you know, learn what a hammer screen is, or a stack screen, which is a Spain pick and roll, or, you know, shake action and all those things, learn where the 45 is on the court. It's a whole lot of things on the terminology, and then learn the concepts of what the coaches wanting you to do as you develop and get older, and go up the ranks of the basketball field.
got you, got you. Um, if someone were to look into David Grace and say, we want David Grace to be the head coach of our college, what would your culture bring? What kind of culture would you bring um, to a college basketball team?
Well, we're going to bring a culture of excellence. You know, we're going to bring a culture of hard work, blue collar work. You know, I have core values is, you know, service before self. That means teamwork. You know what I mean? Excellence in all we do. And then the other one is integrity. All of that will be a part of our culture. And no one's going to outwork us. No one's out going to do more than us. And that's on and off the court. You're going to get a hardworking team, a very respectful team, and a team where not only the school is going to be proud of them, but the community as well. We're going to get out in the community and help and give back, you know, just like we would like for the community to come support us. So, but that culture will be second to none, and it's going to create a winning culture, and we're going to hang banners.
Yes,
And
sir. Yes, sir.
last time I was a head coach, I was a head coach at South Mountain High School, took over the program. They were 4-17, and they haven't won in a while. 2 years later, we were 29-4, and we won a state title. And I told them that was going to happen. We not only changed the culture on the court, but we also went from a 2.0 GPA from the freshman JV and varsity team to an overall 3.0 GPA. And I told the principal who hired me that I was going to do both, and we accomplished both. And then I went on to coach college. So those are the things that you're going to get from me. But you're going to win and win big, and we're going to hang banners, and we're going to do it the right way, and we're going to have a culture of winning.
That's amazing.
Excellence.
So you did what Samuel L. Jackson did in that movie.
Yeah, something like that. And it was the same type of environment as well. You know, he was over in Richmond, California, and I was in South Phoenix.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I want to get your take on the NBA and the rule change recently. So you were talking about earlier how, people are, you have kids who are shooting from 40, 40 feet out, and they're not doing things the same way that the old school used to do it. But with the new rule change where they're not allowing the fouls that they used to see, obviously, James Harden is an example of someone who, used the fouls, used the foul system in a way that was like anything we've ever seen. What do you think of the rule changes and how that's going to affect the game, from a physicality perspective, as well as a foulless NBA league?
Well, I like that rule. I think the flop, the touching, the kicking of the leg, and all of that. James just was doing it to his advantage. I'm not mad
Mm-hmm.
at him. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but now it's changed. If it gets a little bit more physical, so what? So I enjoyed those days with the bad boys of Detroit and
Yes.
Chicago and all that, where you didn't come across the lane without getting chucked, or hit. We used to teach that in coaching. You never allow a cutter to cut without being touched. Well, you can't do that nowadays. So, but I love the rule change in the NBA. I think it's a lot better, and you're going to the free throw line a lot less.
Yes, it's amazing. What is it like seeing some of your recruits, some of the players that you coach, to be in the NBA and do exceptional things?
All the players that I've ever coached and or recruited, I want nothing but success for them. And to turn on the TV every night and not only to see all the kids that play for me that's in the league, but some of the guys that I recruited. I recruited Trey Young. I recruited Zion Williamson. They didn't come to UCLA, but they had great careers at Duke and Oklahoma. But to see those Gary Trent Jr. we recruited, and he went on to Duke. And so we build those relationships. And, Kyra Lewis, I recruited and he went to Alabama. So, to see him the other night on TV, and I sit there and watch the game, and my wife is with me and I'm saying, yeah, I recruited him. I know she gets tired of me saying that, I recruited him. I did this with him. I did that with him, but it's just a joy that to see them on TV and having such success. Of course the Ball brothers and Norman Powell and TJ Leaf, and we can keep going down to Zach Levine, who I'm excited about the Chicago Bulls. I know
Yes.
DeMar DeRozan. I recruited Troy Brown from Chicago. I mean, he was from Vegas, and Troy went to Oregon, and now he's with the Bulls. So, I'm excited for that Bulls franchise. So, and then this to see what Melo's doing with with Charlotte, Hornets has been amazing, and the list goes on and on and on. I'm really happy with Norman Powell at Portland. He's coming off injury, and can't wait to see how he plays this year. Aaron Holiday over with the Wizards now. He got traded from the Pacers, and the list goes on and on and on. But and the other guys that I recruited but didn't come to UCLA, and seeing how well they're doing. And then KJ Martin we had going to Vanderbilt, and a couple of days before he was due to report. He already qualified. He already got in. A couple of days he's due to report. He decided he would go a prep school year and didn't want to. He didn't want those academics he didn't want to deal with. So he went prep school year, and now he's playing well with the Houston Rockets. Jalen Green and I are close friends. We had 27 last night for the Rockets. I recruited him for a long
He's a
time.
beast.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't going to go to college. I knew that from a way out, just because his skill set is so good, and the way the family was, the dynamics of the family. And I knew he would probably go to the G League out of high school, and now look at him. He's doing well. Great kid, one of the best kids I've ever been around. So I'm happy to see him when he's playing well. So there's like at least one kid or two kids or three kids or even four kids. Jalen Brown with the Celtics, and Aaron Naismith, they're on the same team, so it's, seeing those guys. It's just a joy to watch. I get excited every time I turn the TV on to see which one of our guys, the Mobley, Evan Mobley's having a great career already, out the gates as a freshman, who I think was a steal for the Cavaliers to get, is doing extremely well. And he came out of the Compton Magic program, which I used to coach in, and I recruited him hard before I left UCLA, and his dad got the job at USC. So, and his brother, me and his brother stay in contact a lot, and he'll probably get drafted. Well, I know he'll get drafted. I saw him on the draft board. Isaiah Mobley is going to get drafted at the end of this year. So there's even more coming. Scottie Pippen will get drafted after his year at Vanderbilt this year. So there's even more. So I get excited every night. I go to turn the TV on, and I gotta select which one I want to watch.
Yes, sir. It's amazing. It's amazing. One last question that I want to ask you, in terms of the AAU. Okay, so let's say you have an AAU kid. He's ranked #1 in the country, and you start to see he's feeling himself a little bit too much. What are your thoughts on the ranking system in the 7th and 8th grade, and how do you work with the kid to make sure that does humility or humbleness matter at that age, especially if the spotlight's on them that early? What are your thoughts on that, and how do you develop a kid to be teachable when the lights are on them that young?
I really wouldn't. I really don't like the rankings that low. I think they should start ranking kids as freshmen, because I always tell parents, I tell them in my camps, I tell them every time I get an audience of parents, you don't want your son to be the #1 player in the 8th grade. What's that going to get you? It doesn't get you a scholarship. All it gets you is that. And almost every kid, because there's been some that's been really good in the 8th grade and they're still really good, like LeBron James, but that's very few. Almost every 8th guy that's been ranked the #1 7th grader, #1 8th grader, are not ranked that when they're 17, and that's when they hand out the scholarships, or now with the pro leagues, professional contracts. So you want them to be good when they're 17, not when they're 12 or 13 or 14. And I tell parents that all the time. So whoever's ranking middle school guys, first of all, they don't really know, because there's so many of them. They don't really know who the #1 is. They can't see everybody. You know what I mean? So and I always taught, like this weekend I had a middle school camp, and I always said, there was a lot of talent in my camp. We had a slam dunk contest and everything. I mean, those kids were really talented. But I told each and every one of them, there's somebody out there better than you. So stay humble. Always remember that there's always somebody better than you. Even in the NBA, there's some cats playing pickup right now that's better than them guys in the NBA. They just didn't have things go their way, or they made bad choices along the way. But there's always somebody better than you. Always. Ja Morant wasn't heavily recruited. He took somebody that was heavily recruited spot. There's a lot of McDonald's All-Americans that aren't in the league. And there's a lot of guys that weren't even close to being selected as McDonald's All-American that are flourishing in the NBA, because they never stop working. You can never not stop working. And that's with every human being. I don't stop working. I was on the phone all morning this morning, trying to get me a gig, you know what I mean? And then help others as well. I had a couple calls that wanted some advice. So, we every day, we should be lifelong learners, and we should be humble, and we should really, if somebody's going to rank an 8th grader, 7th grader, 6th grader, don't listen to that person, because that person, I know, hasn't seen them all. Possible. It's a pyramid thing. There's a whole lot of 8th graders, a little bit less 9th graders, because they get cut from their high school team. There's a little bit less sophomores, because they get cut, or they change, you know what I mean? And it's a pyramid. Then a little bit less seniors, and then it gets to college, it's a whole lot less, And then it gets to the NBA where it's very few.
Very
And
few.
if you can make the NBA, you're 1% of the whole population.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Coach Grace, for this amazing conversation. I hope the listeners who tune into this, they'll learn a lot about the game, about life, about not just about the game of basketball, but about the game of life. What you said about being lifelong learners and always working, I think that's something that everyone needs to look at in their life, whether they're playing basketball or not. That's something that you can use in life. So I really appreciate that, Coach Grace.
Thank you so much, man. It really means a lot. Always great talking with you, and I appreciate you asking me to come on. It really means a lot.
Absolutely. God bless you. And I cannot wait to see you at the college ranks as a head coach.
Thank you. Really means it. Means so much, man. I really appreciate that, and I continue to work for that goal. And with God's blessings, it'll happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Talk with you later, coach.
Thank you. You as well. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.